Hey Goddess Globetrotters, it's Tosh here, founder and CEO of Travel Goddess International. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Travel Chats. Today's segment is all about solo travel, and I couldn't be more excited to sit down with the founder of African Women Journey, Miss Lula Defersha.
Hi, Tosh. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Thank you for joining us today, Lula. I'm going to jump right into our questions because I'm sure folks are ready and interested in listening what you have to say. So, first question, why African Women Journey? So for those who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you, why don't you just take a few moments, help them get to know you, where you started, and kind of, your mindset.
Sure. So thank you so much again for having me. I'm super excited. We love one thing for sure, which is traveling. So I'm excited to talk about that. But so I launched African Women Journey about a month and a half ago. Just a little bit of background about myself. I am an immigrant to this country, born in Eritrea and grew up in Ethiopia, that's in East Africa, and then moved to the United States when I was 13 years old. So when I came here, I had to learn the language. We had to create a whole new community, just a new world because we didn't know. So fast forward to today, just a few years ago, I wanted to connect to my roots again. It's been a while since, I went back home 2 years ago, and I plan on going back every year. But I wanted to create an opportunity where I am uplifting like African women, especially entrepreneurs. And in a way that we celebrate them, amplify their stories, but also provide resources. So from finance to share other women, encouraging women's stories of how they were able to build their entrepreneurship, like platforms or businesses, but also items that you don't necessarily know when you start in a business, things you just don't have access to. So that's pretty much it. I launched it a month and a half ago, and it's growing pretty fast. And I didn't expect it to grow that fast. So I'm super excited.
I definitely can relate to, it's almost interesting when my family's from Panama. So yeah. So it's interesting. I feel like when you start to mature in your age and your interests, you really want to know where you came from and understand how it really correlates to who you are today. And I similarly have begun that same journey of really just wanting to understand Panama, my heritage, my roots, my family, their history, and really start to relate to that and maybe define myself as an Afro-Latina versus just an African-American, so I too can relate to just feeling like, okay, there's a part of me that I haven't tapped into. Let me continue to explore it. So that's really cool to hear. And you've created a platform to really amplify such voices. So that's pretty amazing.
Thank you. And congratulations on that. It's so important because it's a part of you. So why not explore and reconnect? So congrats. That's awesome.
Yeah. And it's funny, I'll segue into my second question, but my sister actually went to Panama probably 3 years ago on her first solo trip. And it was also her first international trip. So she kind of was like a double whammy in that regard. But yeah, that really was what sparked us to say, let's really dive back into this.
I love it.
And yeah. So I'll jump into my second question is, recall your first solo travel experience. I know that you've traveled quite a bit and you've done it on your own terms. But what was that first experience like? What inspired you to just take the leap of faith and go?
Oh my God. So I just want to give a full disclosure. I have braces. I got it tightened and I'm talking a bit funny, so I apologize. So 2016 was my first solo travel to Curacao. Prior to that, I have traveled a lot, and it usually, let me back up a little bit. So as long as I can remember, even when I was in college, I was always dependent on being around friends, being around people. I never really liked being around by myself. Like even when we went to like the dining halls, I was always around people. When I'm walking to class, I was always with someone. So, but something happened, I think my last year of college, where just a lot of just independence and just wanting to be comfortable with who I am and being by myself, I just started exploring that. And from there, I started traveling with friends, just kind of get started. But 2016, I got tired of waiting on people.
Mm.
I would plan a trip. I'll reach out to people and they're like, I'm interested, but I'm not ready.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I can't miss another trip. Like, I just can't.
Mm-hmm.
So I picked Curacao because it's, they speak English there, so, like it's Caribbean. So I was like, let me just go somewhere where I could feel comfortable. I have done a lot of research. If I get lost, I can talk to someone who speaks English and they can guide me back to wherever I need to go.
Right.
So it was a very what's what I'm looking for? I knew I wanted to travel solo, but I wasn't quite sure when I was going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I was up at 2 a.m. one day, just kind of looking at flight deals, and then I saw a $250 flight to Curacao.
Yeah.
I just booked it. I was like, I didn't even ask from work. I was like, I'll just let them know that I'll be taking off whenever that date is. I booked it. Brandon, my husband, he's super supportive. He was like, go for it, babe. I didn't tell my mom because she would have probably killed me. But yeah, I booked it, went to the airport. I remember feeling so nervous.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, I literally have no one with me. Usually I have either my husband or my friends, someone, you could talk to, keep an eye on you, keep an eye on your stuff when you go into the bathroom. And just, I would just remember being by myself and feeling a lot vulnerable. But I was like, all right, we're here. I'm not canceling this. I get to my gate and I meet another solo traveler. And she was there by herself. She was celebrating her 50th birthday by herself because all her friends kind of flaked out.
Yeah.
So we started a conversation and she was like, all right, we'll see each other when we land. I was like, cool. So got on the plane, landed, everything went smoothly. I had an Airbnb. I was staying in the city because I just thought it was easier to kind of navigate. Got to my Airbnb. The lady and I had exchanged phone numbers. I told her, like, if you come to the city, she was staying on, like, the north side, which is, like, where the beaches and the resorts are. She was like, just let me know. We get together. The first day, I just explored by myself. I connected with the people that they work at the hotel, and they gave me, like, where to go, who to reach out to. And I just explored. But I just remember feeling free. I remember being in a country where no one knows me. But I just remember feeling free, doing what I wanted, waking up whenever I wanted. It wasn't really a set schedule. I just kind of like winged it the first day, just kind of see how I felt. And I absolutely loved it. Yeah. I was just like, I can't believe I waited this long to do this. It was just like the perfect trip.
You said so many good points and I was just like, yes. As I was listening. But I think even your last one, when you said you can't believe you waited this long to do it.
Yeah.
That is so key. And my first solo experience was very similar I was just tired of missing opportunities because you're waiting on family and friends to join in. And I too was kind of just up late one night, saw an amazing flight deal to Italy. And I said, okay, I'm just gonna go. It was like 213 round trip to Rome. Yeah. Wow. So I booked it and I went. And to your point, you're on your own terms. You meet folks along the way. You research enough, and you stay in the areas that are going to be easy to access and navigate. And then on top of that, you're working just with you. So, you
can learn a lot about yourself. You really learn a lot about yourself. I think that was like the moment that I was just like, I really am comfortable traveling alone, being by myself. Like, I'm social, so I love being around, but I was like, I could do this. I definitely could do this. Like, I enjoyed it way too much. So Brandon was like, next time I'm going with you, so don't get used to this. But you just have to do it. You really just, once you do it, you won't stop.
Agreed. Yep. Because then after that, I was like, Rome was February, and then I went to Norway and Belgium in March, like literally the next month. And then a month after that in April, I was in Honduras, and those were all back-to-back solo. I was like, oh, what have I been missing here?
I love it. Yeah, Europe is a different experience. Yeah. That was, so Curacao was my first solo experience. And funny story, so I linked up with the lady that I was telling you about.
Yeah.
She had all-inclusive resort that she had paid for one of her friends as well, who never came.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like, she was like, you can come, the beach is there, free drinks, food. I was like, I'm probably gonna be murdered. Like, I'm taking the bus, like, to the resort. I don't know this woman.
No.
So I'm telling you the story because it makes, so I get there and like we just ended up clicking. We were just having so much fun, and I'm not a drinker, so I was just there for the beach and the pool. And I ended up just having a good old time. But while I was there, I told her that I travel a lot. She was like, if you're ever in London, let me know. Like, my boss has a house there. So she was like, if you ever travel, just hit me up. I was like, yeah, sure, whatever. So 2 months later, I saw another flight deal. This time it was for Portugal. So I was like, let me see how I can connect like other countries while I'm out there. So I went to Portugal first, and then I went to Barcelona, and then I went to London. When I went to London, prior to me going to London, I hit her up and I said, I'm going to London on these dates. Does the offer still stand? She was like, oh my gosh, yeah. So when I landed, a car driver waited for me, her boss driver.
Yeah.
Picked me up from the airport, took me to his private house. No one was there. I was by myself. So I ended up just enjoying London for free.
Yeah.
Except I paid for my flight. So, like, the people you meet, that's the point. The people you meet while you solo travel, because a lot of times when you are with your own friends, you don't technically like venture out to have a conversation with others.
Mm-hmm.
But when you're solo, I'm very social. I love meeting people. I tend to make a lot of friends. So that was like one of the bonuses.
That's awesome. That's so awesome. I had a similar experience like that when I was in Morocco and got set up. Yeah, completely set up in Marrakesh because I was in Casablanca, and I had met someone and they owned a car service and did all that. So I had all my transportation covered when I got to Marrakesh, because you just meet people and you talk to them. So it makes a difference.
Incredible. It really does.
Yeah. But right now, I'm going to jump into the next question because times are changing. And we're kind of like, oh, we got to be home. We can't even go to Europe. So let's, talk about the elephant in the room, or the elephant in the world of travel, if you will. This pandemic has definitely put a pause on everyone's lives, especially folks like you and I who love the exploration of travel. So how do you think it will affect the future of travel? And maybe how are you using this time to kind of pivot yourself and grow from your local experiences?
Yeah. So I don't think we're going back to normal, whatever that normal was. Prior to, I also have been praying for normal, but I had to make peace with it more recently. First of all, Americans are being like banned from almost every country.
Oh, I know.
So that's that. Two, I think the way we travel will change because we're just very like uncertain about what's happening with this virus. So I, like, for someone who loves to travel and I'll get up, book, and just leave at any opportunity that I get, I'm more hesitant to even look at flights. I'm supposed to be in Ethiopia in September, and I ended up just postponing it because not just for the safety of myself, but also my family back home. In certain countries, the healthcare system is just trash. And I would hate to be the person who carries something from here and there and give it to the locals who can't afford to go to like a hospital or can afford to be taken care of. So I know like Mexico's open. There are a couple of like Caribbean islands that are open as well, accepting Americans, but I've seen a couple of people travel, which good for them. Do what makes sense for you. But I don't think we'll go back to normal, and I'm not sure what that change is going to be. I'm now more hesitant. I can speak from my own personal perspective. I'm very hesitant to book a flight. I haven't even. I mean, I miss traveling, but I'm not that eager to go anywhere.
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
What about you?
Me, the travel bug has bit me, and it's just I can't get rid of it. So I'm ready to go. I'm looking up flights and I'm figuring out what destination makes sense, how they have adapted their policies and procedures. And again, to your point, what works for me within my immediate situation. I don't have as many folks around me, so it makes a difference. I just want everyone to know that my boyfriend was here for that comment and said something about us traveling, and I'm just gonna ignore him.
Hello.
Right. So with that being said, let's jump into our topic for today, which is 5 tips on how you can be successful during your first solo vacation. And part of the reason that I think that this topic is still prevalent today, and even though we talked about the circumstances of travel, I feel like I'm seeing more people just go because they're like, I can't wait on people. And on top of that, I've literally had to wait on myself for the last 5 months. So I'm seeing a lot more solo adventurers going out there. So I thought that this topic would be perfect for today. Not to mention you're a solo traveler. So if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and share some tips with the people.
So 5 tips that I could share from personal perspective experience is this is safety / like things you should do while you are out of the country. One thing that I definitely do before I leave is share my location with my loved ones. So they can track, sometimes you lose service, especially if you don't have Wi-Fi or international data. So they could track where I am if I'm not responding to phone calls or text messages. So that's one. I highly recommend doing those free tours wherever you are. That's how I ended up meeting with so many people. So if you travel to Europe, they have it a lot. Those meet your tour guide like at a certain location, and they give you a free tour. You're supposed to give them a tip, of course, but you get to meet so many incredible people. A lot of the people that I met that I was able to continue to network even when I left the country has been through those free tours that we did. Because it's a walking tour. It's like an hour or 2, depending what they're doing. You can include like food and drinks. So you're always socializing with people. So I recommend you, I'm very cheap when I travel. I try to save my money out of sport. So you're gonna hear me talk about like take advantage of like the bus system, the train. Yeah. And I have no sense of direction. So it's coming from someone who has no sense of direction. So, but figure out, definitely share your location, take advantage of your free walking tours wherever you are. It really, really, if you want to like connect with people, that's something I do every time I go somewhere, and you save a lot of money. I would say, let me see, I take a lot of books with me. Books I usually don't get to read when I am in the house because I'm busy working, whatever the case might be. So I take like 1 or 2 books, one for the airplane because I can never sleep on the airplane. I just can't. 2, when I'm at a restaurant or I go to like a local park, whichever country that I'm at, and I'll just read. That's just something that I love. And that's my way of kind of taking time to myself, especially when you're in a foreign country you're not familiar with. And also be curious. So one thing that after my first trip, something I told myself that I'm going to stop doing is early on, I traveled for the experience, but I wasn't really paying attention to the history of the countries that I was going to. So I'll take cute pictures, but I wouldn't remember a lot of things once I get back to the States. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, it's so much that I missed on. So being curious and asking questions wherever you are, whether you're doing the tour guide, the tours, or you're like even staying at a hotel, talking to the front desk person, they usually give you a great idea of where to go, who to contact. So learn the history of the country that you're visiting. I think it honors the people in the country that you're at, but also gives you a different perspective of different cultures, different people, different backgrounds, and also helps you grow as a person. At least it did for me. Learn the language. I try. Out of respect, because I speak 2 other languages. So I remember going to Colombia, and I had to catch myself because I got there and everyone was speaking Spanish.
Mhm.
And I remember feeling so frustrated. I'm like, why is no one speaking English? I'm like, Lula, you just came to their country. How
Yeah.
dare you like ask yourself like why no one is speaking English? You didn't even take the time to learn the like few languages, like I mean words to say. So that was my shameless moment. But since then, not learn the language, but learn like few phrases so you
Mhm.
can communicate.
Yep.
So anything from like restaurant where it's like this places that you know you're going to visit to speak English, I mean the language, like little things to kind of help people understand so they can guide you to the next person. That's something that I do. And then the last one would be I love going to non-touristy places.
Mm.
That's where I think you get the real experience of the place that you're visiting. Don't get me wrong, I love like the touristy places, but I always make sure I leave like 2 days to connect with locals so they can take me to their favorite restaurant, to their favorite like coffee shops, or to where the locals go to. When I was in Barcelona, I met up with my front desk person, lived in the U.S., but he was currently working at in Barcelona. So I told him that I loved football, soccer.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Oh yeah, we could definitely go." I was like, "I'll invite my girlfriend, his girlfriend." He was like, "We all could get together at 6 o'clock and go watch one of the local team play." I was like, "What?" I was like, "Okay." Again, share your location so you're not being kidnapped.
Right.
But be open-minded enough to meet others. I
Mhm.
think there's a misconception of, I know we live in a crazy world and people are unpredictable, but there are so many beautiful, kind human beings that genuinely want to show you their country.
Yes.
So use your common sense. But my best travel experience has been from the locals.
Mhm.
I'll meet someone, like spark a conversation, and then they'll invite me. I've been invited to people's homes where I had home cooked meals, went to football, soccer game. I have done like so many beautiful. When I was in Ecuador, a tour guide's his car like broke down, so he took us to his like mechanic. We were like for 3 hours just sitting there. I was like, okay, I guess we'll be spending like half of our day. And we weren't bugging out. We were just like, all right, cool. So he went to the corner store and got us like empanadas and like drinks. He was like, he was like, just bear with me. I was like, cool, sure, no problem. But it you just be open minded and make the best of your situation.
Mhm. Those tips were spot on, and I really keened into when you mentioned being open to the environment, but understanding how it's giving back to you
Mm-hmm.
through education, through experience, through culture, and that ultimately allows you to grow as a person. Um,
Absolutely.
a lot of times when I describe my experiences, I always talk about how I'm a better person because I travel. Not, travel is just like you mentioned, taking cute pictures and getting kind of the surface level experience.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But ask yourself, how has this added to the person that I am when I return? And seek to find, I challenge people, seek to find one moment during that journey that will shape you and make you better for it. Um, you
100%.
know,
I
because
100% agree.
yeah, and that's really how I continue to think now that when I travel now, because I'm like, what can I take from this experience? It's more important than just the photograph, because yeah, you have the picture, but are you better for the
One
picture?
more. Yeah. And like you said something, which is when you're sharing your experience, you always talk about like those beautiful moments you experienced while you were traveling, not the photos, but it's usually like the locals that you met,
Mhm.
something you learn about yourself, or something that stood out. That's usually people. Like I travel to connect with others. I travel for the culture, generally wanting to experience other people's culture. I'm very sensitive about that because again, being born in a different country, I
Mhm.
get very offended when people come to my country and demand things that the country doesn't provide because of the experience of wherever you come from.
Mhm.
So if you don't show up to people's country open-minded to learn who they are, their history, their food, just like the environment and how they operate, like why are you there?
Mhm.
Like, like, what are you there for?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
Excellent point. Excellent point. So I challenge all of you guys out there, be open-minded when you visit countries, even if you're just going to hang out at the all-inclusive. Still, the people that are working there are local.
mhm,
Ask them
mhm,
questions. They want to share. They really
mhm.
do. So just don't have those blinders on when you're out and about. Be aware and ask, because people have stories to tell. And sometimes you'll be surprised about the information in which you'll discover.
Oh
So
my gosh. So, and like, we're so much alike than we think. Like, you could relate to really anyone if you have a sit down conversation.
yes.
Like, we're so relatable as humans, but I think for some reason we just think like the culture, the people, the language, whatever the case might be. I think we think we're a lot different than we think we are.
Yeah, it's a great point. I'm going to jump into our next question because I could sit here and talk to you all day about this. um, but, but you talked about a lot of cool stories and a lot of cool experiences during your travels. So my favorite question to ask on travel chats is, what is the craziest travel story that you can share? And feel free to use discretion, but you have to
Yeah.
make it entertaining though.
So I thought about this question. There's so much that has happened. But one particular experience, I think it was 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, I was going to India. I had a layover in a country that should stay nameless.
Mm-hmm.
Pissed me off. I had a layover where the airport is really small. It's not meant for a layover for more than 3 hours. It just isn't. It's one of those, like, you stop and then your flight comes and you leave.
Mm.
I'm traveling by myself, going to India. I had a layover, and apparently the day that I landed is the day that it rained so much, and they never really received that much rain.
Mm.
So the whole airport just shut down. I was supposed to be there for 2 hours.
Mm.
Literally just land, catch my next flight, and go. I land, and they get off the airplane, and I'm looking around like, for a small airport, it's super full. I was like, I wonder what's going on. So
Oh.
as I'm like walking in, they make an announcement like, oh, we have a lot of rain, so everything's delayed. I'm like, cool, no problem. So an hour goes by, no update. 2 hours goes by. I was like, all right, I was supposed to leave at this time. Let me just go to information desk. Information desk is like full of people because everyone is asking the same question. So at this point, Tosh, I promise you, 10 hours in, people are sleeping on the floors, children are crying, adults are crying. I'm by myself. I'm like, what the heck is going on? So it's 10 hours in, no information about my flight, no information about the status of anything. This airport is full to the point you don't even have a place to sit down on the floor.
Wow.
There's that many people. So 15 hours goes by. At this point, I'm like, whoa, I'm supposed to be in India at this point, enjoying my vacation. None of that is happening. So I sneak into the business lounge.
Mm-hmm.
So the business lounge is like, no, not business lounge, like I forgot what the correct term is. This is like where all the first class people and business people kind of like stay. You have like free food, free drinks. There's a couch where you can lay down. There's like clean air. It's like so much space. So I just snuck in. I just walked in. Lady didn't say anything. I sat down, had food, drinks, took a nap. At this point, it's 20 hours in, and I'm just, living my best life with where I'm not supposed to be in. So this is why I'm not naming the country. So
Right.
they banned me.
Oh,
So I spent like a good 6-7 hours up there just chilling, meeting with people. And then 26 hours later, something told me, I was like, just go downstairs and check. So I get to the information desk, and they were like, oh, I think your flight is about to leave. I'm like, I didn't get a text message, none of that stuff. So I rushed down to my gate,
oh my gosh.
and they give me my ticket. I rushed down to my gate, and the person at the gate was just like, "Oh no, you're this isn't your plane." I'm like, "But it's telling me it is." He was like, "Ma'am, you can't get on this plane. This isn't yours." But I'm like, "I'm going to India. I'm going to New Delhi." So he was just like, "No, this isn't going to New Delhi." At this point, Tosh, 26 hours in, I was not going to spend one more hour in the airport.
Oh my God.
So I'll pass through the front person, get on this airplane. I knew it was going to India. I wasn't sure what part of India this plane was going to.
Mm-hmm.
I just knew I had a better chance landing in India and figuring my way out of going to my destination versus staying at this country.
Mm-hmm.
So I snuck into this flight, praying that praying that it was landing in New Delhi.
Oh my gosh.
So when we were about to leave, the lady, the flight attendant was just like, we're be going to New Delhi. I was like, oh, thank Jesus. I was like, all right, we're good.
Gosh.
So yeah, I never share that story with anyone.
That's crazy. And like from a listening standpoint and being on the edge of my seat, like what happened? What's going to be the end? That was entertaining. That was good. I'm sure when you were going through it, you were like, get me out of here. This is too much.
So when I got the 20th hour, that's when I start panicking. I was good. I was like, like I'm here. Like there's really nothing I could do about it. I was like, I just have to wait it out. So I ended up reading like 3 books while I was there. I couldn't sleep because I wasn't sure when my flight was leaving. I met like a couple of people, so I was able to eat with them and like talk to them. And then I got tired of like sitting on the floor. Like my butt just started hurting. I'm like, I'm just on the concrete floor like for 20 hours. Like I just can't do it. And one thing I forgot to mention. The police were so terrible at the airport. They turned off the Wi-Fi. They were like kicking people off the floor. I'm like, where are we supposed to go? It was like, that's when I started panicking. This was like around 21 hours in. Like it was just a very like abusive situation and it was very uncomfortable. That's when I started panicking, but I snuck into the business lounge. I had free meals, free drink. I love tea. They have best tea. Got to take a nap while I was there. It was just clean and beautiful. And by the time I got out, I was able to get on this random plane and ended up going to the place that I was going to. But
gosh, that is wild. That's a good one. Thank you so much for sharing that. I'll probably tell that story and be like, let me tell you what happened to my friend. Because that's a good story.
Yeah. I really hope it doesn't happen to anyone because that's just traumatizing. Like I don't wish that on anybody.
I had a similar experience, but it didn't go 26 hours. It probably was like 7, but it was
it's just not a good feeling. You're just like, what's happening? And no one's telling you anything.
So before we get out of here, I just want to give an opportunity for you to share with the audience where they can keep up with you, your projects that you're working on, and of course, keep up with your travels should they come about.
Yes, so thank you for that. You can find me at African Women Journey on Instagram, Facebook. I'm currently working on the website, so that should be launching in about a month or so. I do have a personal account, but I prefer you find me on the African Women Journey. Currently, I'm not traveling just yet. My next few travels, whenever that is geared toward like my African Women Journey. I'll be traveling to Africa mostly to create networks and work with different women entrepreneurs. Super excited about that. I'm trying to kind of not take over, but so I'm from Ethiopia, so I have no works there. But go back to Tanzania, Kenya, and Mozambique because it's like all there. So it's usually like an hour flight from each. So that's my next few travels and it's all business related. So I'm super excited to just kind of connect. And these trips were honestly because of the people that I met while I was like in different countries. So please network. Like, I mean, I know it's vacation, but if you have a project in mind, an idea in mind, start a conversation. You really never know who you're talking to and what door they can open for you. So definitely go find me on at African Women Journey on Instagram. That's where I spend the majority of my time kind of building content and networking and telling stories of other women entrepreneurs, African women entrepreneurs. So yeah, find me there.
Awesome. Lula, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing. Like, I just feel like I want to sit here and talk with you all day, and I hope that our Globetrotters will feel the same. Um, Again, this has been a pleasure. So,
Likewise.
all right, folks,
Fun.
until next time.